to everybody, and looking forward to one day meeting you all in person at an upcoming conference when we ever get back to those. Who knows when that'll be? If not, then on the road. But good to see you all. And for purposes of today, we're going to kind of run through this, and I assume everybody has at least used Zoom at one point over the last pandemic ridden months that we've all experienced. What I'm going to do I will not play to the lowest common denominator in terms of overall messaging today on Zoom, but I will at least cover some basics and then some important steps that we're all going to need to be aware of as we move forward. So just want to pop up the presentation to get us going here, so just so everybody can just wave your hand if you can actually see the presentation. Inaugural UWC Virtual Visit Days. Great. All right, so let's get to it. Three basic pieces that I'll cover today in the training. First, pre-events, a checklist of things we'll need to make sure everybody's on the same page for. Then talk about how the day will go. Each of the days has a similar schedule, different times obviously, but want to talk about how you make the most of the time that you'll have in your rooms. And then post-events, things to consider as you go through in making the most of this event, as we all try and find these new ways to reach our audiences in a time when we don't have very many options. So appreciate you all bearing with us as we make this event go. So pre-event planning, as you know, I've been keeping up to date with regular emails each of the last couple of weeks, and that'll continue through the time of the event. First up, we have the mailings to UWC schools. Not all of them, you may remember from the emails, have requested materials to be sent. I sent you a spreadsheet that had the basic information for each of the 19 schools and which ones were and which ones weren't requesting information. Sent you also a sheet from Air Concepts down in Florida. Great partners for a lot of international educators in the US and beyond over the last 20 years that I've known them. And they certainly have a great reputation in the field, and they are offering us very reasonable rates to get your materials to the schools that want them. Again, none of the schools are really requesting hundreds of brochures. That are on that spreadsheet I sent you that were specific numbers, maximum numbers that they were hoping for. So hopefully you've been able to read over that and see what you want to send out. And for the Air Concepts piece, they've set a deadline of August 17th to get your first batch of information to those schools for the Asia event on September 1st. So hopefully you have that lined up. Anyone have questions on the Air Concepts piece before we go to the next step? If you want to unmute and ask, that's fine, since I just have your videos on the side here. Everyone's good. Okay. Well, again, for Air Concepts, to get the rates that they've indicated on the brochure, if we get 20, we'll all get a discounted rate for getting our brochures to the schools. Again, there were 12 of the 19 schools are willing to accept brochures. So they're going to compile everything you send to them. If you get it to them by the 17th for those Asia schools, they'll send it off in one shipment for all of the 47 institutions that are participating. So that's going to be a nice, easy way for the schools to manage the flow, so they don't get 47 different packages from you. And then do that for each of the 12 schools that have requested. There were a couple of schools on that spreadsheet that said they'd prefer an email PDF be sent to them. So you're certainly welcome to do that. Gave you the counselor contact information for each of the schools. So feel free to email them any PDFs that you would want shared with your prospective students at those schools. So questions on that before we shift over to elevator speech videos? Okay, great. Now the elevator speech videos. This is, I've already had a couple folks email me with questions on this, and that's great to hear that you're actually planning how you want this to go. And that's really something that we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. And I'll touch on the emails to UWC prospects. Hopefully some of you who have traveled before or been active in engaging with the UWC school community, you have your own prospects for juniors or seniors that you would want to invite personally to your room on the day. And certainly that's something I encourage you to do. And whoever's not muted, please do so. Thank you. Someone I can hear having a conversation. Okay. All right. So that'll be part of the pre-event planning too. Obviously, when you send your emails out to your prospects, you're going to invite them to your room. If you want to invite them to the entire event, that's fine too. But you certainly, you'll know the times that you're going to be in your room, and then you can invite them to that and provide them a link to your room when we have those all available for the event. And also, if you have current UWC students on your campus, you may already be thinking about this, including them on the day in your presentation, or in your if you're not going to do a presentation in your room, you're just going to have live Q&A chat, have them on video to take some live questions from current UWC students in schools abroad. So just things to think about as we're going through. I want to get to the elevator pitches themselves. We talked about the mailings there. The elevator pitches themselves really is a good idea, since we're talking, these are recorded, obviously, so you want to put your best foot forward with these. So it would be worthwhile to, I think, have some sort of script for that 90-second to 120-second video that you're going to shoot. I encourage you to be creative. You're going to be one of 47 colleges with these short videos, and you want to stand out as much as you can. Certainly have something in the background that represents your institution, so then it's more than just your face that they're associating with the institution, with whatever presentation is being made at that point, or that 2-minute clip. Practice is always strongly recommended when it comes to these. You may be doing 3 or 4 versions of these, or you may nail it on the first go. I know Scott will, and he's such a pro. He's been doing this so long. But in addition to making sure you got that background prepped with something institutional, also focus on your lighting, because some of you, if you were doing this today, you would probably not want yourself lit the way you're lit, because it may have very poor lighting in your rooms. But pay attention to that. I think that's important. For those of you who do these regularly, you may already have invested in a quality mic, or I've got the AirPods in. If you're in an echoey room that doesn't have a lot of decorations on the wall, you may want to avoid using a mic that's like in a built-in webcam, because those tend to have a more echoey sound. And you want to have see if there's a professional mic that you can use on the day for the recording as well. But you may also, if you're into YouTube videos for makeup, I'm not, but you may have invested in one of these light rings to help light your way, because it certainly can help in those situations if you are going to be presenting in a very dark room. So they can get them fairly cheap. There's a difference here between light and unlit, but certainly very helpful if you can have that, and make sure you're looking as collegiate, but also as professional as possible, in putting your best images forward. And this is something I do on a regular basis as part of my consulting business, and certainly something I've gotten used to with weekly live chats and fine-tuning what I've done over the last couple of years in doing those. But once you have your video content done, you got your 90 to 120-second video done. In that initial message, there was a link to a shared folder. I'll also email you this presentation afterwards, so you have it, and there's an embedded link in the presentation you click on once if you don't have that email handy. But in your email title, when you upload that video file, please include 3 different pieces of information in the title. Your name as the presenter, your institution, and then which event the video is for. Some of you have a different presenter on each day for the two different events, so you might want to have a different pitch video, maybe the same script, maybe slightly different if you want to target it to the different audiences. I will say though I wouldn't just say it's an Asia Day and a Europe Day, because there will be, as you might have seen on the emails, there are 5 other schools not in Europe and Asia that will be attending these events. Some that are meeting, their schools are going to be meeting virtually for the first time. I've also been asking the schools lately, what are your plans for the fall? And they're as all over the board as U.S. institutions are right now. Some are going to be fully in person, like Singapore, they're going to be fully in person. Others are going to be hybrid, and others are going to be fully online to start. So depending on where they are in the world, if their students aren't on campus, they may be in their home countries, and they may be able to attend both events, one or both events, depending on where they are in the world. So even though they are designated as an Asia Day on September 1st and a Europe Day on the 22nd, that won't necessarily be the case in terms of the actual students you see, just students from Asia or just students from Europe. So just keep that in mind as you're putting the pitches together. But certainly if you're having a different person, it may be worthwhile to have a separate video for that person so that they can remember, oh yeah, I saw that person's video, because this is something they're going to see before the event. The counselors have agreed to, once I've collected all your videos, and that deadline is August 17th as well. Once I've collected all your videos, I'll upload them to YouTube playlist for each event, the September 1st event, the September 22nd event, and then I'll be sending that playlist link to the college counselors in the UWC schools, and then they'll be sharing those with the students that they're inviting to the event. So you'll have that exposure before the event, and that's something that as we were putting this together, as more and more schools started to get involved, colleges started to get involved in the actual event itself, it wasn't going to be practical to do 40 of these or more on the day, because anyone who's done a CIS tour or other tours in the past, when you give someone, oh, just say four or five things about your school or whatever, a couple minutes about your school, it's never a couple minutes. It's always much longer. And when you're on a tight timeline for 3 hours and the attention span of 16, 17, 18-year-olds, you want to maximize that time as much as possible. So these pre-event promo videos for your institutions are the way we've decided to go. So hopefully that'll show some value for the school counselors and on the event day itself, when they can reconnect with people they've seen a video for. Maybe they remember that college background, and we'll try and associate an image from perhaps that video file when we create the landing pages for the events themselves that the students will be going back to try and reconnect with institutions that they saw videos for. And like if they have we can have a screenshot from each of those videos when we have the links to the actual meeting rooms that you'll be in and available for comments and questions on the day. So those videos, get them up by that August 17th deadline, and then we'll make sure we'll have those out to the counselors by the end of that week of the 17th. So that's the plan for now. Questions on the videos? I'm happy to take those, and feel free to unmute and ask away.
Hi, Marty. If I can jump in, it's Juan from NYU.
Hey, Juan, how are you?
Good, thank you. Quick question. Is there a particular program that you want us to use to record these videos, or can any sort of program acceptable?
Any program is acceptable. I have an online audio and video converter that I can change into the right files that YouTube will accept. So if you've done this for YouTube before, if you've shot anything on your phone on YouTube, it's pretty straightforward. They'll accept a lot of different formats, and that's what we'll be uploading it to. And for those that have questions, I have checked with UWC Changsha in China, and they're on a VPN, so their students can all access YouTube from their accounts. So if you're wondering about that, Hong Kong as well. So they're fine with that there. Good question, Juan. Thanks for that. Anyone else?
In these promo videos, we would be inviting them to the room or to the event, but mostly to your room, if you will, is it?
Yeah, you can do both. I haven't made the assignments yet for the 3 presentations that we'll be doing in the 40 minutes or so before the event actually starts, before the college fair portion of the event starts. But if you're presenting, you might want to add that in, and I'll certainly get that to you shortly. End of this week, we'll have those decisions made. because everybody gave me their choices on what they would like to present, and obviously I can only pick 3 for each. So we will have 6 different speakers, so we'll at least spread the wealth a little bit that way. But yeah, you can mention it in the video. We'll have the colleges will get the college counselors will get the landing page for the event, as you will shortly. I think it'll be the week of the 24th. We'll get that out about a week before the event. We'll have that out and ready to go to you guys. So you can share that with students that'll have prospective students you already have in your databases, as well as any ones that might reach out to you after they might see your video. Minu, another question on there, or is that good? Okay, thanks. Any other questions on the elevator pitches? Okay, great. All right, most of you have your own, already have Zoom Pro accounts at through your institutions, but there are, I think, about 6 or 7 of you, maybe 8 of you that have requested an account, and that's fine. For those who are going that route and need an account created, what I will need is an email address to tie it to. Some of you have already indicated what that email address is. But what you will need to do is, for that email address that I'm going to be tying the Zoom Pro account to, when I was chatting with the Zoom folks and setting this up, they said that they would need that email address needs to be tied to a Zoom free account so that it can be upgraded for purposes of these events. So that would be the one thing. If you already are planning, we're planning to get an account through this event through me. You would need that email address that you mentioned to have a Zoom free account. So if you are one of those 6 or 7 schools that are in that boat, create a Zoom free account, and that's the one, no financial commitment at all. That's listed there on the left side of the screen, and those are once you've done that, let me know, so that when I submit the list of emails, that addresses that would need the new account, we'll upgrade them to the Pro license, so that everybody be on the same page in terms of their individual meeting rooms. So that'll be the important next step, just for that small group of folks who are needing an account created. So you will just need to create a free account on Zoom and tie that to the email address you want to use for the Pro account that I'll be paying for. So and those licenses will run through the end of September once we get those up and running. Okay, questions on that piece? All right. Now, scheduling your room for the fairs. This will be an important piece. I don't know, for many of you who've been using Zoom a lot the last few months, you're probably very familiar with this, but when you create meetings and they have your Zoom desktop client on your laptop or desktop, this should look familiar to you. But what I would suggest you do is, for the 2 event days themselves, for the 1st and the 22nd, create a meeting in Zoom where it's going to be on your calendar. Not that you wouldn't forget it, but just so that it's already part of your Zoom schedule, and that's it'd be an easier way to share that out with students that might contact you beforehand, or as you're going through your email communication out or messaging out about this event itself. That'll be something you can just drop in the Outlook calendar link, or invite folks to that through your database. So just thinking about some of the tips in here on what you want to have as options on the day. If you've done these before, you probably want to probably already know this, but there's always initially when Zoom first rolled these out, everybody was using free accounts. There were real security concerns because anyone who found the link could get in if they didn't have a password. So that's something that if you include the password option, require that as an option, and that's then tied to the link if you're sending it out as an email or an invite. That'll be embedded in that, so they can just click on the link on the day. And that was one thing when you sent me your links on the survey for your individual meeting rooms, if you already have those, some of you included the full link with that password. And some of you didn't, so we may need to go back and just double check that, so that anyone who has the link, if it's password protected or not, that they've had the full link, so that they can actually get into the room and not have to worry about asking for a password. So that would be something that's, we'll just want to double check and test before the events themselves. So calendar invites, certainly want to make that a part of it. For the waiting room option, I disabled the waiting room option for this training today. So that meant everybody just came in all at once. So this will be important, maybe not necessarily for the college fair portion of the day, that in terms of having the waiting room, because you probably want people to come in as like it would at the regular college fair in person, and maximize that time when you have an energy in the room or multiple rooms of all the folks that are attending. So, but what I would absolutely make mandatory for yourselves for doing the interviews after the fact, after the events, when you identify senior prospects that you want to invite back for interviews, for scholarships, whatever you want to do. Certainly enable that waiting room if you're going to be having multiple events back to back, because that could, you don't want someone coming in on an interview when you're in the middle of it with one student. So hopefully that makes sense on that front. Questions on scheduling your room for the fairs, just those the 2 days, the two sets of times. The times will run for the whole event from 6:30 to 9:30 on the 1st, and then that's Eastern time, and then 12:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. on the 22nd, and adjust accordingly for your own time zone. But the college fair piece of that will be closer to an hour in, probably about 55 minutes in, before you actually are in your rooms doing your thing if you're not presenting. But you can always be there before if you don't want to have be involved in or in the room for the presentations. So next up on the day, this is again what we're talking about a little bit here, whether you want to open your room up for open access for the fair, or if you want to have a waiting room situation. If you do, you're going to have a lot of ringing in your head as people try and come in, and you have to manually let them enter. So for the fair day, my recommendation would be to do open access for that, where you disable the waiting room. But so it might be just my personal preference. If you're having a deep conversation, I don't think you can switch it in the midst of the meeting, but that's just something to think about as you're going into the day, how you want to handle that, and how you want to do the room, what you want to do in the room. You can do a presentation, you can share a video, you can share your website, but in conversations with the counselors that have done some of these with their students in the past year or so, their recommendation was don't do formal presentations there, don't show your website. That's stuff they should already be doing. And that's something they can do anytime. That's not something you need to kind of lead them through necessarily. You can drop links to your website or other parts of your website that you think are particularly valuable that you want students to use. And that's something I would certainly recommend doing in the chat, just dropping links in there. And that's something that will, I think, save time. But just maybe have a document of your most common links that you have in a separate Word doc open on your desktop or laptop, that you can just cut and paste those links into the chat, so that everybody who's attending the chat can certainly take advantage of that, not just any one particular attendee. So the question that another major question that we'll cover is scheduling interviews. Now, for those who haven't done the tours before, the general formats would be there'd be standard some general presentations that would be requested by the counselors in front of the attending students. Then that would roll into a college fair portion, standard college fair, and then after that, later in the day or the next day, there would be time for one-on-one interviews with the institutional reps and prospective seniors or seniors at the time. So for how you schedule that will be, and this is something that many schools on the tours would use those times to really get to know the students and as formal interviews potentially, or informal interviews for scholarships and that type of thing, however that gets handled at your individual institutions. But just thinking about how you want to handle that, that's going to be something to think about in terms of scheduling, because there's a number of different services. I'll touch on a couple of them. If you don't already have that access to a scheduling system that you can shoot out your calendar to anybody to kind of pick and choose times to meet with you. I'll share a couple of examples of what you might want to do if you don't already have an option like that. So in terms of the days themselves, these are the times for each of the schools that are going to be designated for the 2 Asia and Europe days, and then the 5 other UWC schools in the Americas and Africa. So that's something that's just so you're aware of what those are. Checking your databases for any any prospects who might be invited to the Africa, North Central America schools at the bottom there. They'll get invites to both events, since a number of them are going to be virtual, particularly at the start of their school year, so that their students may still be in their home countries, and may be more appropriate for them to attend the Asia Day than perhaps the Europe Day, even though the time zones might be more suited to the Europe Day. So just think about that as you're planning it around. What I would recommend is obviously using the same room that you're going to use that you use for the event days for your interview days, for any times that you have are making available for students to come back to interview with you. It's one less thing that they have to worry about. You can also schedule times with those students too that makes sense for you. In terms of the agenda for the day, for the September 1st event, kicking off at 6:30, running through to 9:30. As I mentioned this week, I'll identify who the 3 people are that will be presenting for each of these 2 events. And then it'll be a 15-minute max presentation that everybody who attends will have a chance to see, and then they'll roll off at 7:20. That's when the events will end, and then it'll be basically any of you that were in the rooms watching or presenting for any of the keynotes. You'd have 5 minutes to get in your room, get yourself set up in your own room, and get yourself set up for the fair portion of the day. So that's the same format for the Europe, Africa, Central America Day. So that's those are the topics, obviously the ones that were recommended by the counselors. And let's see, setting up your room. Again, I won't spend too much time on this. You know hopefully what the formats are. I would recommend keeping the chat open on the side so that you can follow it as you go, or if you have someone else who's also maybe a fellow staff member that might be in the room that can be answering questions in the chat. If you don't have someone to help, then maybe you're going to be doing a lot of back and forth, but at least having that open so that you can see things as they're coming through. I would recommend recording, just as we're recording this for our purposes here, for those that can't make it today or on Thursday for the trainings. That you may want to repurpose some of the content or some of the questions that you are answering through the events that you can share out to prospects that maybe you've met on the day, or you can share the links out to the different to the college fair portion, maybe not. Or if you're into video editing and splicing that stuff down and reusing content, this might be, if you're particularly good on the day, particularly awake and lively, and you feel like you had a good answer there, you can probably cut out pieces of that and repurpose them for future use. So something to think about just as you go. The security piece, just be sure to be checking on that before you set up your room, as I was mentioning earlier, in terms of entry into the room. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, this is how you want to handle it for the event itself. If you're not doing a formal presentation, you're just doing live Q&A. Do you want in your room? Do you want it to be like we had at the beginning, where it's everybody's video up? Do you want all the students to be up but muted? And that's something you can control when people come in. You can have them all muted when they first enter, and then you can release that. Or do you want them to just have their answer, just do their Q&A? Some students might not want to have their video up, and that's fine. That happens fairly regularly in these virtual worlds that they're interacting in these days. But some may want to ask you a live Q&A and have their audio on to ask that. If you don't only have a couple students in there at once, then yeah, pop each of them up and let's get a conversation going. But that's just something to think about in terms of how you handle that. If you're going to have maybe one of your current UWC students being a part or another staff member. If they're not on camera with you, they can be in their own, they can just log into the event on their own, and you can make them a presenter or give them, make them a presenter for audio and video rights. So that's something to think about too, just in terms of how you fill your screen. But a lot of just decisions that you'll make as you see fit from your own campus in terms of questions. Anyone have questions on what they might, what they can or should do at this point related to it, to on the day?
So Marty, the last 2 hours of the 3 hours is the college fair portion of it.
Correct.
And interviews might happen at a different time or after that?
That's as you see fit. Well, obviously, when we've done tours in the past, the interviews, some of them start almost immediately after and go into the evening or early the next morning. But it's your schedule, not ours, so not mine. So that you set them up as you see fit. You'll if you're on your own meeting Zoom meeting room, then you set up that schedule as you see fit. So if you've only had 10 students, 10 seniors that came to you in the fair portion, then then that will be fairly easy. Maybe you have a link, and this is something that I'd recommend, if either a link that you send privately to an individual student, if you think that there's someone that you want to have an interview with, if they're a senior. Or if you're more open and don't care who you necessarily interview, it's anyone who has an interest, send them the link, drop that in the chat. If it's a sign up, like maybe a sign up link for times that you've already designated. So did have a question about how the schools will be promoting the event. They on the spreadsheet I had sent you earlier, it had a list of how many students they were going to be inviting, whether they're inviting just seniors or 11th grade as well. Some are inviting sophomores to it. So what we were doing, the schools have control over how they're getting the message out. They have agreed to share the videos that we're doing, that you'll be doing and sending to me as well. So there'll be ways that they'll do it. They're handling that specifically. I'm not doing direct recruitment of students at UWC schools. That's handled by the counselors themselves for these two events. So, and that's why obviously, if you've met students at UWC schools before, they're already in your database, you want to invite them to your room specifically, not necessarily the whole event. That's fine. That's up to you. And certainly that should be a part of your strategy as you approach this event. Is inviting those that you've already had that relationship established with at some time in the past, inviting them directly to this event on your own, to your part of the event. So, other questions on the presentations or on the room?
I had a question on the rooms. So would we set up the rooms for the entirety of the presentation or just during the fair time, right? We're setting the times up for the fair times.
Well, let's take a look at it this way. If you're not presenting one of the three keynote speeches from the first hour, you could be in your room, and maybe that's a time where if you already have UWC prospects that you want to have a conversation with, you can invite them to come and meet with you then, before the doors can open up to everybody else. Again, we're talking about events that could have up to 1,000 students per event based on the numbers that I'm getting from the schools saying how many students they're going to be inviting. The real decider will be, I had a couple of counselors like UWC Atlantic. They've sent me a message this morning saying our seniors will all be in quarantine still because they've just started their school year right middle of the month there. So they'll still be in a 2-week quarantine, but and of the 180 students that we would invite, we expect only about 100 to come because that's the 100 that are probably looking at the United States. So they'll invite 180, but 100 will come, but maybe more will come if since if they're all quarantined, they don't have anything else to do. Who knows? But we'll see. So, but every school is going to be different, and I'm going to share that once I've compiled that from all the counselors. I'll share that with you as well to let you know where each of the schools are in their plans for meeting and their final invite counts. So with 47 schools and 1,000 potential students at once, then that's obviously not everybody's going to get full rooms at once, but that's something that you'll just want to be aware of as you're going into the day.
I had another question. So the link that we make, so once we invite, so I'm assuming it's the Zoom link that we would be sending to the students with a meeting ID and a password. So would we send that? So we would send them to the data. Would we be sending that link to you as well?
Well, that's the link you should already have sent to me if you have your own room. If you already have your own institutional account, you sent on that survey. I asked everybody if you have your institutional account. Drop the link in there that you're going to be using on the day, because that's why it needed to have that password at the end of it, that longer link, because that's what they're doing now with Zoom links, is that I think they're almost requiring them to have that the password added on. I know at the end of September they've mandated that all Zoom meetings have to have passwords to them, so that password will be embedded in the link you're sending out to students for the event. Does that make sense, Mina?
Yeah, and I did not have the institutional one,
okay.
so I just got that invite from you.
Yeah, the one I'll be creating for you, that'll have the password in it. It'll be set up for that. Yeah. I've got a couple other questions come in through chat. How will we obtain student information such as email addresses? Exactly, that's a great question. And students, when they when they're sent the information for the event by their counselors, it'll be a registration page, a landing page for the event where they sign up to get reminders for the event. And when they sign up in order to attend, it'll be name, email address, school, UWC school, and potential academic program. So we're trying to keep it simple there, not too much detail. But that detail is what I'll get for all attendees to the event. And then that's what I'm planning to do is any student that comes to the event, I'm going to share their information with everybody, whether they attend each of your rooms or not, because I think that's only fair in this situation. Because I won't know who attends if you're using for your meeting room for your institution. If you have your own institutional account, I won't know which students visited your room. You'll be able to figure that out based on any tracking that you do through registration for invites you send out or for your page, for your room itself to any prospects on the front end. Nicole, yeah, certainly anyone who has sent me a link that they need to update with the full password, yes, please do that. I'll be checking with you as well on that front. When you're setting up your Zoom rooms, that was another question that came through, is who do you share the link with? And if you already have an institutional link, that link is your personal link it doesn't really change unless you change it, actually physically change it. For every event that you do, it'll be the same. So that will stay the same. So the one that you sent me will be the one that we used on the day, and you can double check it when you set up, like you're setting up an event, a calendar event that you might be sharing with your current UWC prospects. Just double check that link and make sure it's the same to the one you already have shared with me, because that is one of the beauties of these Zoom links, is that they're reusable rooms. They're the same room, operates in the same part of online in terms of website links. So it doesn't create a new one for each meeting you have. So it's the same link. So hopefully that. Sure, yeah, Amy, that's certainly we can add. And obviously, we have women's colleges involved in this, so that's a good add. We can certainly add gender onto the contact form. So thank you I'm making a note of that as I put my list together here. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible so we get as many of them involved in the event itself. So, all right, other questions on room setup?
So, Marty, this is Jonathan from Washington and Lee. Quick question, and I just want to make sure I'm following along here. Sounds like you're suggesting we can do our own marketing of our appearance to any kids that we've got on our database from previous years. And you'll please forgive me, we use Teams and Slate for all of our video share. So I'm doing a crash course on Zoom here.
Okay.
I know I need to update you with my event or my meeting room password. I don't think I put that in. I changed the link that I provided to you to make it, not as complicated.
Oh, okay.
You'll be sharing that then with the schools. They in turn will be sharing all the password information that the students we don't have access to already will use. That's right.
Yeah.
We're managing that. We're managing communication with kids we already know.
Yeah, and there'll be some overlap because obviously what I'll be doing is when I create the landing page for the event itself, it will have the links to each of your rooms on that page. So that will be, because when students finish the presentation part, we'll drop everybody, there'll be kind of an exit page for that event. That'll drop them back to the landing page that will have the links to everybody's individual meeting room. So for those of you who sent me the shortened version of your meeting room URL, send me the full one. They're obviously not going to see the actual meeting room URL. It's going to be your institutional name hyperlinked to that room. So as the way that'll all work out for the students, trying to keep it as clean as possible for them. Obviously for your students that are already in your database that you market to from UWC schools you already know about, they'll get two potential messages. They'll get one from their schools for the whole event, which will be the link to the landing page, which will then have every institution's links on it. But then you'll also send them the personal invite to your personal room, your college's room on the day. So does that make sense, Jonathan? Okay, great. All right. Does it, and another question that's come in from Candace at Furman, does it have to be a university rep that does the speech? Can it be a current UWC student instead? Candace, are you talking about the keynote addresses or the in your room? The elevator speech. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, the elevator speeches. Yeah, if you want to have your current UWC student give it, that's great. I mean, one of the things that you and I and everyone who's been in admissions for more than a minute knows, our students are our best advocates in terms of for our institutions and the best promoters for them, or can be. I should say, it depends on the student, of course. But these UWC students are usually cream of the crop kind of kids. So that would be the opportunity. Yeah, certainly get them in front of our future students on your campus. That those kind of those student messages are that's where it should be going these days. A question about the keynotes, as I said, Minu, at the end of this week, by the end of this week, I'll have made the assignments based on the requests from the schools for the three sessions, and they came out the same in both the Europe and the Asia ones. They all identified the same three topics, and for that, need-based financial aid, importance of essays and admissions, and U.S. campus life, what to expect. Those are the three topics, and that's why I asked you that on the survey. So based on what people requested and what you have said you could do, there's the good question, Peter. I'll get to that one in a second. There are certainly ways that I can only have 6 people give these presentations, but it will be the 6 of you. That will be 6 of the university reps that are attending. So that'll be it. Another question is sending messages to counselors. I mean, if you have a personal relationship with the counselor, say, hey, I'm looking forward to chatting with your students, great. But yeah, they could be getting those from every one of you potentially. So that's probably not, certainly no bulk messages. I would certainly advise against that. If you have a personal relationship with an advisor or counselor, certainly feel free to send those out. All right, post-event. Well, I'll wrap up with this, and I know I'm already at the edge of my time here. So, for post-event, in terms of scheduling interviews, this might be the logistical piece that might be the most challenging for some if you don't already have this piece set up in your institutions with access to your calendar, sharing your calendar with, or certain parts of your calendar if that's not part of your university system or college system. You might want to look at investing $6-7 for a month to get this done. There are two services that I've used in the past. They have, I use it professionally. I use Calendly. It's a freemium version that has a 2-week trial period, and then you pay $6 to $7 a month. Similarly, for Doodle.com, they have a 2-week free trial. They both also have Zoom integration, so that would be an easier way to, once you schedule someone for a Zoom meeting, for a Zoom interview after you've met them at the event. That could be easily figured into the calendar invite that gets generated when they sign up for a time. Both of these allow you to block off certain sections of time, 15, 30 minute, 45 minute, 60 minute. The screenshot on the left is from Calendly that shows you what that looks like. So you can set the times on the days that you want to be available for this, and both of these also sync with your email servers, whether it's Google-based or an Outlook-based system. They'll be able to integrate with your current calendar and pull in and block off any time that you don't have already blocked off. You set the times that you want to have available, and then students, when they come to this, you can drop a link to your calendar in your, either directly to students that you've met on the day, or privately afterwards. You can send each of them a link that you would like to have an interview with, and then they can sign up on their own. And then that gets, once they request an interview, you get notified. You add it to your, it gets added to your calendar, blocks off that time, has a potential to embed a Zoom link in that as well for inviting them back to your meeting room, as we've talked about. So hopefully that makes sense. Some of you may already have this ability in your own institutions, but if you don't, there's relatively cheap $10 a month, less than $10 a month to do that, to have a scheduler that you can send a link out to students, and they can fill in the times that make sense for them and you, that you've already pre-designated as available. Okay, does that make sense on that, on what that means, what that looks like? Any questions on the scheduling piece of the interviews?
I had a quick question, Marty.
Yes.
This is Vianne from
Yep,
University of Oklahoma. And if we are needing to schedule interviews with multiple reps or admissions counselors and things like that, we don't have to use the personal meeting room that we previously used if we have a scheduler set up. So, correct? Or, I mean, I know you recommended it, but we can.
Yeah, I mean, if you prefer using Skype or another service that or Teams, if your institution's already on that.
No, I was just thinking that because we have multiple reps for different UWC schools, so we need to make sure we're scheduling them correctly that way. So I would love to have all of those folks in my interview meeting room 2 weeks after the event, but I probably can't handle all of them. So, okay, great. Just wanted to make sure on that. Thank you.
I just wanted to provide options for folks that might not have as diverse a staff issue that that's a wonderful challenge to have, I guess, in this day and age. But good for you. All right, so just some last tips. Prior planning, obviously, is that's why I want to make the time today, as well as the regular emails, just so we keep each other in the loop on things that are as they're happening and developing. And everybody knows that since this pandemic hit, our mantra has to be we're flexible, and we have to be flexible in how we approach prospective students, parents, our own working environments, our own offices, if we ever get back to them, those type of things. So that's just general advice from someone who's been doing this a little more than a minute. Keeping it simple is important. Particularly, we know Zoom rooms aren't the most don't have a whole lot of bells and whistles, and that's probably by design. But some people, like I know Karen's got her nice Middlebury background out in the clear blue sky behind her, so that's great. Some of you have your own backgrounds there, and you may want to play around with that. But you may want to have some institutional stuff in the background if you don't have a campus shot that you're putting behind you. But that definitely keep it simple when you're messaging. Always have that be a part of everything you're saying on the day, obviously, as you would at a college fair, but also in your elevator pitch. Make sure, if you're particularly having students do it, that they're reinforcing those messages. And that's the key, is obviously trying to build the relationships with these students on the day. So hopefully this will, keeping it simple, will get us where we need to be. Now, one last thing I think we've got, and this is our future, at least for the fall. If this digital piece, digital first, digital only option that so many of us are faced with these days, it's unlike anything we've ever seen before. I mean, even those of us who are around post 9/11 on the admissions side, it happened after most of us, or as most of us were having our incoming classes, but it was nothing like there were certainly parts of the Middle East, you weren't traveling to anytime soon after 9/11, but we can't travel anywhere. People have been sharing around that map of the world that shows countries that actually will take U.S. visitors right now, and it's a pretty short list. So this is our reality for the time, and the more that you can take off your shoulders and put on and share around, particularly with your current students, and peer-to-peer messaging and opportunities for them to connect and let them tell the real story of what's going on your campus. Because students, as much as we like them to think that they trust everything we say, that's not always the case. So they much prefer to hear from students who are going through it on the day, going through living the life there. So we're talking about here, we're talking about for these events, opportunities. If you have UWC students, have them involved in some way, either in your elevator pitch or on the day, being available for students to chat with, prospective students to chat with. So that's what we're looking at right now. Any final questions before we go? I know there's a couple more in chat that I'll try and get to here. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, wow. All right. So last question here. Oh, someone's got something. Go ahead. Someone have a question? Oh, turn the mic off. All right, no worries. All right, so question about students could potentially get 40 promotional emails if we're all promoting our rooms separately, plus promotion from counselors. I don't think that's only, Beth, I think that's one question. If they're already students, or not everybody has, some students who've met with members of you before will get multiple messages, sure. But I think it's important that if you've already got a relationship with a student that's connected with you, either you've met last year on a tour, or they've come for an on-campus visit last summer, or whatever it might have been. It's really not this summer, but we're looking at, that's a relationship you want to massage as much as possible and have them continue that relationship with you at the event. So I think I don't think that all of 2,000 UWC students are going to get messages from 47 schools. I don't think that's the case, because some of them might not be on your radars yet. But certainly it needs to be part of your communication to students in advance of an event. Yes, they're going to get it from their counselors. Yes, they're going to hopefully see your elevator speech. But when we talk about points of contact with student prospects before they get enrolled at our institutions, there's often those small things, those small messages. If it's a welcome personal message, then that's going to have a significant impact in the whole overall process, whether they even come to the event. So definitely think about that. You certainly don't have to, but I will certainly I would recommend doing that with your prospective students if they're already contacts of yours. So as I said, end of the week, that'll be the next update for me on who, I won't tell everybody, but for the 6 people who are will be selected for the 3 keynote events, speeches at each event. I will let you know by the end of the week. So wish you all the best of luck. Thanks for joining in today, and we'll definitely be in touch by email, and if not, another training session soon. So thanks again, everybody. Cheers.